You've been waiting since a very long time for this to come, and today is the day. I would like to share a flip through of this little journal I made a while ago. You have already seen some photos of this project on my Instagram, Facebook, and other social media platforms. And you have asked if I can do a flip through of this. And of course I can do that, and that's the reason why I am here today. Thank you very, very much for your patience and for waiting for this video. And also thank you very much for your lovely comments below the photos I have already posted. That shows your interest in my projects, and that makes me always really, really happy. So let's talk about this little cutie in detail today. Before I start, I want to mention something that could be important for you if you are new to my channel. So I want to explain what you can expect from this video and from this journal. Perhaps you know that I am a maker for Tim Holtz. That means this is one of my makes for him. This is an ideology make. That means in this journal there's 99% ideology products. And this video is meant as an inspiration, of course, what you can do with the ideology products, but it's also meant to find inspiration for creating with other products. That doesn't have to be ideology, but so that you know what I'm doing here and that you know what I have used here. I wanted to mention that in case you are new here. So the base for this journal is the ideology booklet folio, and that is a really, really cool thing because you get the base for this journal in a really raw and empty stage, and then you can decorate it like you want it. I want to quickly explain what you get when you buy this product, this ideology booklet folio, so that you know what I had as a base when I started creating this. The first thing is you get this ribbon here, which you can use as a closure, like I did here. And when I look at this ribbon, I have to say I was really, really, what is the word? I was like a little bit laughing because when you have written some comments below the photos, you said, what the heck has happened to Louise? She has used the ribbon obviously exactly like it came out from the package. She has no grunge on the ribbon. What has happened? And there's a bow. If you know me, you know that that was really funny for me to read because, you know, normally I don't use bows. I put grunge to nearly everything. And to have a closure on a journal is also not such a usual thing for me. And that was really funny to read. But that's what happened here. I have used the ribbon exactly like it came from the package because I wanted to have a contrast between the grunge I have on and in the journal and this ribbon. So that is the first thing you get with the base of this folio. The next piece you get is the cover, which is obviously this portion here. The cover has several different things you can play around with. The first thing is you have this little flap here, which you can use to have the flap around the journal here. You can also, of course, use this in several other ways. You could, for example, take this and bend that to the other side. I will not do that to not manipulate the fold here because it's, in my case, it's meant to go around here like this. But when you take it out from the package, you could also decide to just bend this into the other direction and use, for example, this here as a second spine. Yeah, would be a possibility. And another thing that the cover has is this little flap here. Originally, you could take this and flap it to the left here. I can't do that and I can't show that anymore because I have two book corners here which hold this piece down and turn that at the same time into a little pocket which now holds this tag. But what I'm trying to say is you could use this in a totally different way. You don't have to turn that into a pocket. You could even, if you take just a few papers or very thin paper, make this into a very thin spine and put some papers in here for an additional signature. You could, for example, have some thin note papers in here so that you then can open this here and have more writing space here, would be a possibility. So the cover is the second thing that you get with this booklet folio base. Then in the package you get two signatures which are already sewn together, so you don't have the loose paper, but it's stitched together with, I think a sewing machine or something, so that the pages are already attached to each other, and you have two of these little signatures here, which you can then decorate. Each of the signatures has, as you can see, 4 papers, meaning 8 pages. So you have 16 pages in total when you use everything that comes with this folio. And then there's another thing which I can't show you here because I haven't used it for making my journal. There's a little string which you could use to attach the signatures to the cover. And that is, in my eyes, I learned that that is not good English. From my point of view, thank you to the person who has pointed that out to me. From my point of view, it is really good to have this string and all of the other components which come with this set. If you consider yourself a beginner in junk journaling or making albums or scrapbooks or whatever, I mean, you could turn this into something else as well. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a junk journal. But what I'm trying to say is I find that really, really handy to have the string to attach the signatures to the cover without the knowledge of how to bind a journal with needle and thread. I'm sorry. So originally, and that is a little bit sad, I can't show you that anymore here because I have manipulated the spine, but please imagine, here you can see these ring fasteners, and originally, I mean, they are still there, but they are hidden by these little guys. There are 2 holes, one is here and the other one is here, and that is already when you buy this base for this journal. The holes have an eyelet, so that is really sturdy, and you could use this string I've been talking about before to fiddle that through the holes and then attach the signatures even without knowing how to bind signatures into a journal cover. I wanted to have my spine a little different, and I knew in the very beginning that I wanted to use my own thread and my needle and, you know, do it like I always do it and not use the string. So I had the chance to use these holes for something else, and that is what you can see here. I wanted to have a spine that looks a little bit like a pouch or something that could be like a wallet or something, because when you have the journal like this and you have this little ribbon here, and imagine it is like in a bow here or here, then this totally reminds to a pouch or a wallet. Especially with these little screw heads, when I don't say this is ideology, this is ideology, this is ideology, that means everything is ideology. Yeah, so these screw heads are ideology, here everything is ideology. I will only say when it's not ideology so that you are not confused. Yeah, but it makes no sense when I always say this is ideology, this is ideology. Do you know what I mean? Because it's an ideology make. So the screw heads here and here, and this flap reminds of a wallet or a pouch. And I wanted to have something matching, especially matching this metal here on, here on the spine. So I decided to make this little thing that looks a little bit like a part of a bracelet, even if this metal element here is stiff. I mean, you know, if you would take this off, you could not wear that as a bracelet because that would be not nice on your wrist, because it's so stiff. But here it's only the visual thing, yeah, that it reminds to a bracelet or a decoration of a pouch or something. I have put the ring fasteners through the holes which I had here, and then I have taken these little guys from my stash. So this is not an ideology item, the same for this, so that I was able to put this little piece of fabric, which also comes from my stash, into these little clamps. And then I've just attached this ideology thing here with the fasteners to the fabric, and then I have glued this down to the spine. So this is not movable anymore. I wanted to have it, yeah, that it looks like you could take it off, but it is like a stiff spine here and really part of the spine. That has 2 reasons. The first reason is that I wanted to have a hidden spine. So below this piece here, there are my binding threads hidden so that you can't see them anymore, and that they are really well attached, because gluing this to the spine also makes the binding of the journal sturdier, of course. And the main reason was to have this in this place as well, and that you can't remove that and that it can't fall off when you open the journal. If you know me, you know that I'm normally not this ribbon closure type of junk journal crafter, if that makes sense. And that is probably because when I make a journal and I'm in this process, I can't see what is going to happen. And I can't see how thick the journal is going to become. And with that, I have really problems to decide about the length of such a ribbon. And what I really don't like is when you use this journal, for example, on a travel or so, and you have a loose ribbon laying around. Imagine this was not attached here and you would open the journal and work in it and write something or glue photos or whatever, then this would be loose. And I'm always a little bit afraid of, losing this or this. It stresses me when I have to put this back to the journal and then it's somehow only in my brain. But for me, both of these ends have to be approximately the same length to make my junk journal soul happy. And when it is not attached, I have to figure that out, how to wrap it around the journal every single time I have the journal in front of me and want to close it again. So that's the reason why I attached this here. And that gives this thing here also this function that this is hold here in place. The cover I made with some Tim Holtz fabric and the new collage paper. I have first glued the fabric to the base of this journal. By the way, the base is made from mixed media heavy stock. So that is a paper which can handle wet mediums really well. And it's also really nice to glue fabric on because, when you want to glue fabric, excuse me, you need glue on the whole surface. And when you then put the fabric with other papers, it can happen that it gets a little wonky and you get these waves in the paper and it dries not so nice. With the mixed media heavy stock, that is absolutely no problem. You can just glue it and you can be happy. So we have the layer of the fabric, and then on top of that I have put some of the new collage paper. Perhaps the collage paper that was already existing in the past. It was on these rolls, so that you had a very, very long piece of the collage paper and you could cut your own portions from it. Now the collage paper is available in sheets. So what you can see here, this is approximately the size of the sheets that the collage paper comes in now. Really, really cool. I really like that because if you wanted to cut something off from the roll, you had to decide where to cut. And then you had this like flimsy and strange rest of the paper. We are junk journalists. We can always use that. Yes, but also for my imagination of how the whole arrangement could look here, it helps me a lot that this comes in sheets now. I find that really, really cool. And I also find that you can store it easier because, this is in a package, it's a rectangle, it's flat, it's nice. This roll was always a really weird thing in my drawer. It went from here to there and, this roll is just a little bit hard to store, but that's just a tiny aspect of this. So I have glued the collage paper to the fabric with some collage medium, and while that was still wet, I went in with my finger, first with my fingernail to make a little hole, and then I put my finger flat to the surface here, and I went over it like this, really, really gently. Und that is German, I'm so sorry. And then I could get these little like worms here around the holes. And because of the collage medium, this is really sturdy. So this can't fall off, even if the collage paper is really thin, of course. And, when you can stiffen it with some glue, and that is what happened here. And I find this really interesting. That gives it a really nice texture and a really nice additional look, especially because there were no collage papers anymore. You can see the pattern of the fabric really clearly and in its original color. And perhaps you want to put your eye to these holes first and see how intense the colors of the fabric are, and then put your attention to this where the collage paper is over the fabric and you can see this really cool translucent look of the fabric. I really like this combination, and the texture, of course, is also great. On the back, I did exactly the same, but with another collage paper. So here, the writing, this little script, is on the collage paper, and here you can probably see the pattern of the fabric the best. So this is on the fabric, and the collage paper has these black script portions, and the same thing here. So the flower here is on the collage paper, and the rest is on the fabric. Hopefully that makes sense. I've also used this new tape to give this a little bit more like a repaired look, like it was torn here somehow. I mean, I haven't torn it. I just wanted to have this illusion and to bring another little pop of color to the cover. That was also the reason for this tape. And to be honest, I was so surprised how well this tape sticks to the collage paper. I mean, it's ideology. How can you be surprised that it is good quality? I mean, it's always good quality, yeah? But I thought, let's try, where can I put this tape? And it is really, really awesome that it sticks so well to any material. Here, I had one of the, here, I think it was this one, where I thought, okay, I want to have it like straight, horizontally straight, because this is like vertically in a 90-degree angle here, and this is also parallel to this. And I had this little strip of the tape here and accidentally pressed it to the thing here, and it got a little wonky, and I was like, okay, I can remove it and replace it, but that was not possible anymore. I had to leave it here because it sticked so well that I couldn't get it off without ripping the collage paper off from the cover, and that is obviously a thing of quality. Yeah, so how many tapes do we know which don't stick so well? Imagine washi tape. I mean, washi tape is called washi tape, but in the most cases it doesn't stick so well, and you have to use additional glue. So this is really cool in my eyes. So in my eyes, holy cow, how often do I want to say this? I'm so sorry. I'm still learning. I have so many problems. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so let's ignore that. I have two book corners here. I have put them here to also get this metal look here to the cover, even if this is already opened. And I wanted to have a connection to the screw heads, which are obviously metal here as well, and the metal elements I have on the spine here. And this has another like little function, but I have to admit that is, I think, not so important, but I will tell it to you anyway, what I thought about that when I did that. In the end, I ended up with the conclusion that it is not so extremely important. But what I thought was, I mean, when I put the book corners here, especially the one here on the bottom, I thought if you want to take this and open it on a page like so, for example, and then put it to your shelf as a decoration, then you could add two decorative clamps here, and it could stand by itself like this. Yeah, it just does this because here are no clamps, but it can stand by itself. And I thought it would be good to have this protection here from the book corner when it stands, that this edge is a little bit protected. Now you can immediately see that here is no book corner. Would be good with what I just said to have a protection here as well, because that is going to touch the table or the shelf as well. But then I realized that I can't put a book corner here because this has to be a little bit, it needs to be a little bit flexible, and so that the book can be closed, because it's pretty fat, as you can see. And if I had a book corner here as well, I think it would have been really hard to close the flap here. And that's why I then, during my process, decided to just leave the corner out and don't make a book corner there. And then I also realized that with the fabric and the collage paper and the base material, this is so sturdy that even if you put that into your shelf, nothing can happen, and it will not fall off from the shelf because it can stand by itself. So let's open this and let's quickly talk about what I did on the inside of the cover. So here I have no fabric. Yeah, so I wanted to have something different here on the inside, and I wanted to have something that is not too thick. So I decided to take the raw material of the folio. Let me quickly take this tag out so that you can see that a little bit better. I have then added some scorched timber distress ink and oxide ink to the mixed media heavy stock, which is the material the cover is made from. And then after that was dry, I have put the collage paper on top. So the script you can see here is on the collage paper. I even crumpled the cover a little bit. Can you see this little texture here? That is not only from the collage paper, but it's also from the cover material, because I wanted this to look like, yeah, somehow a fake leather. After that was dry, I mean, after I glued the collage paper, I have added some additional scorched timber oxide ink. I will show you that here on this part of the cover because it's just, you know, more to see, but it's the same technique like in the front. After that was dry, I have taken some water, splattered that to some of these areas here where the ink was, the oxide ink was, and then I have lifted that off with a dry paper towel. These areas here came from some round items from my craft room. For example, I have taken the Glossy Accents bottle, dipped that in some water, then I have placed it here, waited a few seconds, lifted it off, and then I have taken a dry paper towel again to lift the ink off, and then you get these cool stains here. This here, I guess, was the lid of a texture paste. Or perhaps even, I can't remember. It's a while ago since I made this, and I can't remember. I think it was even the bottom here of such a little jar of the Distress texture paste. But that doesn't matter. You just need a round thing, some water, put it on there, wait a few seconds, take it off, and then take a dry paper towel or a cloth or something to take the excess ink off, and then you get these cool stains. And when I made this, I thought, why don't I use this faux bleach technique in some areas on the inside of this cover? And I tried this here. If I would do this again, I would definitely do that a little different. So let me explain what I did here. I had the cover material, the mixed media heavy stock, then my first layer of ink, then the collage paper, then the oxide ink on top. And then you can, of course, take a paintbrush, go over these areas where the oxide ink is, make this wet, take the ink off with a dry paper towel, the same as here, and then this gets lighter if the material under the collage paper is light as well. So that is what happened here. We have this really dark area here where I left the ink on the collage paper, and here I have taken it off so that it gets lighter here. Also here I could get some really nice effects here, but the problem was when I tried to do it on the flowers here, I realized that there was way too much ink under the collage paper and I couldn't get it lighter here because, of course, the collage paper gets translucent and I can see this darkness of the ink through it. So if I would do this again, then I would plan that a little bit better, leave the cover piece relatively light, put the collage paper on top, ink over that, and then I can lift the ink off in those areas where it makes sense and where I want to have it, and I can see the lighter part through it because the base is light. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. So this was, yeah, a little fail. It didn't turn out like I wanted it just because I came to the idea in the moment while I did this and I was not thinking about that I wanted to do this before I started inking the cover. Yeah, so that's why that turned out like it is now. So then let's start with the tag I have just put away. So this little tag is just an ideology tag with some of the collage paper on here and then some distress paint with some water. I have just added some water with my spritz thingy here with this little guy. to make sure that I can move the paint around really well. Then I have let that dry at this little strip of paper here and the paper dolls, and within seconds I had this tag. I really like the simplicity of this. It's just amazing. I really love this tag, and that's, I think, mainly because of this beautiful flower on the collage paper. The edges I've just distressed with some sandpaper to make them stand out a little bit more. And then I wanted to have something like junk journalish in this junk journal on the very first page. What do I mean by that? The pages of this booklet folio, I mean, it's Tim called it booklet folio. He didn't call it junk journal base thing. Yeah, so a booklet folio is, in my understanding, something that you can use to make whatever you want out of it. Also, a junk journal is possible, as you can see here, but you can also turn that into an album, a scrapbook, a beautiful decorative display book thing, whatever you want. But the pages in, no, not but, that sounds so negative. Let's say, and the pages, when you buy this thing, have all the same size. And I wanted to leave most of the pages in their original size. I knew that from the very beginning, so I wanted to have much room to play on here. The scale of this is smaller than my other journals are. So normally when I make a journal, I take a little bigger size. So I thought it would be good for me and for my creative process to have the full pages for playing. But at the same time, I wanted to turn this into my own junk journal. And I thought it would be good to include a smaller page here in the very beginning to have some layering already on the first page. I like to make my journals in a way that when you have the cover and perhaps you think, oh, that is a nice cover, I want to explore the journal and I want to see what is inside, I like to have the first page when you open it like this, bam, and somehow like a little candy that makes you to want to see more. Do you know what I mean? So I decided to make this smaller page to get this effect, and also to have the possibility of a flexible piece, which is a layered piece on this page. Because when you see it like this, and you, for example, only see a photo, you could think that this is the arrangement and that this is the collage on this page. And only when you have it in your hands or you see a video, you can see that this is flexible. And that is something that brings a lot of interest in my, in my point from, is it in my, no, from my point of view. Yeah, from my point of view, from my perspective. No matter what, not in my eyes, Louise. So this gives it a lot of interest and something to play. And yeah, I would say I want to see more if I have this thing to play in my hands. I want to immediately explore the other pages. So this butterfly is a little older, but also from Ideology. It's from the Transparent Things. Please don't ask me if Transparent Things 1 or 2. I think there are 2 volumes available. I'm not so sure. I always have problems to remember the names of the Ideology products. But if you want to see the products in detail, please visit timholtz.com. He has the index there. So that is basically a catalog of all of the products he has, and it is really helpful. That's a page I visit nearly daily to see what is available and how the single pieces are called, so that I know when I want to purchase something somewhere, so that I know the right name of the package. That is really helpful to have that. So here we have a little belly band, which is empty, but you could take something and put that behind here. So, you know, this is loose, so that you, I mean, not loose, but, you know, you could put it behind here, something like a little tag or so, so that you can fill this journal with your own things as well, of course. You can put some letters behind here or tags or little note papers or whatever. This is just a piece of the new collage strips, which I really, really like. They are now available in a bigger size. We had the smaller collage strips, and with the new release, he brought out the bigger scale of them, and that is just an amazing thing. The butterfly, for example, was already on the collage strip. So this is nothing I have glued into this frame, but it was already on the collage strip, so that I just could take the portion of the strip which I wanted to have here, take this frame, put that over there, and I was ready. Really cool and really easy. The frame, you can take sandpaper. I've done that here. I've sanded the edges of this circle and also the edges of the frame itself. It comes already stitched, by the way, so that you can also stain the thread. So the thread is originally white, but I have put some ink over the thread, and then the surface is so slippery that you can take off the rest of the ink and then only the thread is stained. And in my case also, of course, those little portions where I have used the sandpaper, because with sanding this you take off the first layer of this material and then the ink goes into these little damages and stays there. Really, really cool and really easy to do, by the way. But I think you have seen me doing that very often. If you follow me, then you know that I often do this, like sanding, inking, and the rest can go, and then you have this cool effect. So here on this page, I've tried to include something in my journal that I often see in the card maker niche. I wanted to have a little shaker element, but I wanted to see if I can do that in a really flat way. Normally, when you have a card which has a shaker element, then the shaker is probably, you know, a few millimeters thick, so that the pieces which then shake can move in this element or behind the acetate. And I wanted to try if I can make this really flat, and I think it was successful here. But I also have taken some really thin and tiny pieces to make sure that they can still move, even if this is so flat on the surface, you know, so they can still, I mean, you have to, you know, shake it. I mean, what is a shaker? You have to shake the card as well when you want to have the pieces moving, yeah, but you have to do this a little more like aggressively to get this around. But I like this because then you have something to play when you go through the journal. These little pieces here I bought locally in a store called Action. Perhaps you know that store in your area as well. They had really cool little, like, oh, how is that called? Vials, I think is the word, but made from plastic. And they had different sizes of these glittery pieces, not only different sizes, but also different colors, as you can see. And I bought a whole bunch of those exactly for such an effect. And on this page, you can already see somehow a little bit about my idea for the color palette for this journal. It starts with some orange here. I wanted to confuse the person who sees this journal because, look, here it looks like it starts really neutral, a little bit extremely vintage somehow. I think orange, and especially this orange here and this, is a very like vintage color. That is also why I have used the orange on this tag. Also on the tape here, you can see that color. I mean, it's not the same color, yeah, I see that, but somehow orange, somehow vintage, old, and, you know, neutral. I wanted then that if you flip the page, you get this effect of thinking, huh? What is that? What is this? And I went even a step further because I combined this turquoise not only with the yellow here, but the idea is combining turquoise with pink. That means we start neutral and very vintage. We have this confusing page here it gets even more confusing here, but then with the pages you will see in a few minutes, it goes back into the combination of turquoise and pink. That was new. I was, to be honest, thinking about how to do that and in which order for a very long time. I had some struggles as well, but I think it worked somehow. Perhaps you want to leave a comment how you feel about that. Also, I would be really interested in your opinion about these more intense colors compared to the more muted colors, because both of this is somehow turquoise-ish, but this is a completely different vibe, a completely different like temperature of the color than this is. And the journal plays with those contrasts, and I would be really interested in your opinion. Is that too much? Is that too extreme? Does that then look like this page is separated from this and it has no connection? Or can you see the connection? For example, here I have the collage paper in the background and I have colored this with watercolor pencils. By the way, that was the first time I colored with watercolor pencils. It was the easiest thing in the world. I have no idea why I was so a little bit scared about doing that. In the past, I always thought that looks so cool when I see something like this, where the collage paper is colored with the watercolor pencils. I loved it every time when I saw it, and it looked so gorgeous, but I was always a little bit like, oh my goodness, I can't do it. I don't know why, but I was like, there was somehow a wall in front of me and this technique. Here I did it for the first time and I was so blown away. It was like meditative in the highest level you can imagine. And I'm really happy with how this came out. What I originally wanted to say is, look, we have this intense turquoise here. Also in these little glittery pieces, it's like nearly the same color like on the flower here. Really intense compared to the color here. And I tried to get this connection with these little pieces. And also this little thing, which is also nearly not the same color, but the intensity is similar to this compared to this. Is that a connection or is that weird? I would be really interested in your opinion about that. So this page here has a little surprise. You can see the page is cut here. That took me nerves, I can tell you, because when you make a junk journal from scratch and you have your loose pages in the beginning, decorate the pages, and then later on bind the journal, you have the loose pages for a relatively long time on your desk. If something on a loose page turns into a fail, you can start with a new sheet of paper. Here I haven't had the chance because the pages are already sewn together, and I had to put this to my paper trimmer to trim this off, and I was not so sure how much, in which angle I wanted to cut that, so I needed 2 or 3 coffees to decide where to cut, because when it's cut off, then it's not there anymore. But I really like the proportion of this, how this turned out. So I have just, decorated the whole page, cut this off, and then I have taken the triangle which came off from the cutting, and I have put that here as a little tuck spot. I've just sewn that on here with my sewing machine after adding a tiny little bit of glue to hold it in place, just to go to my sewing machine. The mixed media heavy stock is a pretty thick material, so make sure that your sewing machine is not not like a bitch. Do you know what I mean? If you have if you have a medium good sewing machine, this should be no problem, but have in mind that it is pretty thick and that you want to sew through these layers. Perhaps you want to try that out on another piece of paper which has approximately the same thickness before you sew through the actual signature. But with my sewing machine it was no problem, but I just wanted to mention that because it is thick. So here on the next page, as I said, I wanted to go from turquoise. Here's already a little bit of pink to bam pink, with having this here as a connection, not only as a tuck spot, which can hold this tag now, but at the same time, it should be a connection from here to there because the colors change so much. And then we have this little thing here, or actually more than one little thing. I first want to talk about what I did here, because that was something that I tried out here in this way for the very first time. What I have done here, I have done it in like smaller spots in other journals. If you want to see this as a tutorial, then let me know. I will quickly explain what I did. I'm hoping that I can explain that in English. So we have a portion of a collage strip here and here, but only the colored paper is the collage strip. The black and white stuff here is the collage paper. This really thin, translucent stuff that I already also used here. And what I have done was, I have taken the collage strips and then I have split the paper. So that means I have taken the first layer, or the top layer of the paper off. And when you do that not so carefully, you get irregular areas like here. And they get translucent because with splitting the paper gets thinner, of course. And here you can see that this black from the collage paper, which is here, comes through these areas where the collage strip is ending. Can you see that? And when you go over this, you nearly can't feel that it is two pieces of paper. It's like one. I could reach this effect by gluing this with collage medium. And then I've put a thin layer of the collage medium over the whole surface to, on the one hand, seal it. And it's also easier to glue this down, of course, because these little flimsy pieces here, they want to roll a little bit. And when you go over that with collage medium with your paintbrush, then it's easy to stick that down. And that makes that this now feels and looks like it was one piece of paper. And I really like the combination of these colored areas and the black and white. I really enjoy having that in this journal. So yeah, that's what I have done here. If you want to have a tutorial about how I did this exactly, please let me know. And I have also not forgotten about your questions for the tutorial for the stencil chips. That will come in one of my upcoming videos very, very soon. The stencil chips brought me some really weird and embarrassing moments, because we know the stencil chips from other ideology releases in this size. With the new release, they came out in this smaller size. I really like that they are available in a smaller size now, because for smaller journals, that is like amazing. And you can, of course, combine the sizes. Look, it's just cool. But in the past, it was always a little bit weird, because when I lived in Austria, perhaps you have heard about that I moved back to Germany. So now it is not so extremely difficult for me to get these things, this and ideology things in general, because shipping from the USA to Germany is way more easy than shipping from the USA to Austria. So I won't have those extreme problems anymore in the future. But when I was in Austria, these little guys, especially these stencil chips, were like the biggest treasures for me ever, because they have been so hard to get. And I got some in Happy Mails and so on. Sometimes I could get some on online flea markets or so, but I only had a few, and then I used them really carefully. And that was perhaps also the reason why I haven't had the knowledge what you can do with them and what the surface can do. I will talk about that in one of my future videos, because I want to have some of these in my construction site journal I'm working on at the moment. If you might follow my channel, then you know that I document my move and the construction site in my apartment in a journal, and I will show you what you can do with these in the context of the other journal. Yeah, so I didn't want to make this video confusing, because this is a flip through and not a tutorial or something, so that you will see that. And what I'm trying to say is I haven't forgotten about that. And if you want to see this as a tutorial, then please let me know in the comments. This little house here is a little pocket. I have just sewn it on here. After I have positioned the paper doll here, I really like this unproportional thing that looks really cool. And she's just cool, isn't she? With this umbrella, and then she's like chilling and relaxing there with her arm on this house. These little golden flowers here are made with some stamps. They are from the last Halloween release by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz. I've embossed them with golden embossing powder. Here's just some of the tape and this little sticker here. And now this is a pocket which holds these little guys. This is just a tag. It's like it came out from the package. I've just inked it a little bit. I wanted to leave this pink color so that it fits obviously to the rest here. On this tag, I have stamped and embossed with embossing glaze and then added this little stencil chip here with some alcohol ink and this little piece of paper there in the back so that you can see the number a little bit better. So she's living in house number 2. That's why I used a number here on the tag and not a letter, or yeah, so you know, it's like the number of the house. Then here you can hopefully see my intention with the colors from neutral vintage to bam turquoise to bam pink, and then back to neutral colors but with the help of pink and green, especially pink. I wanted to have something that is more muted but pink, so I've decided to use this little die cut and also this piece here and these little roses here on the frame to get this bridge of the colors, but I wanted to have this really neutral and grungy. Here on the right you can see another piece of the collage paper. Perhaps you know this image is also available as a stamp, the same like with this flower here. That is really cool. The butterfly on this, the image itself, is obviously way bigger than the stamp. Really great, because tons of possibilities to combine the stamp and the collage paper. I wanted this to look a little wet. That's why I used some embossing glaze. Just trying to hold the journal so that the light hits it. Can you see that it looks nearly wet? I have done this by gluing the collage paper, adding some splatters of ink. By the way, the most of the splatters here are made with scorched timber, if you question the color. Ink and oxide ink, and also, you know, the oxide spray and spray stain, but the color is scorched timber. And then I have taken some embossing ink just from the dabber, this thing here, you know, it has this felt thing on the top. I just went over that like so, really randomly, but after gluing the frame so that the embossing glaze also gets to the frame and that there's a connection between the butterfly and the frame. It's now a little confusing for the eye, I think, because the frame is obviously over the butterfly, but the green, this is by the way bundled sage embossing glaze, the color of the glaze goes over the frame as well and over the butterfly, so that makes that this is, you know, it's a little confusing for the eye, isn't it? But I wanted it exactly like that because I thought that connects the butterfly and the frame and it gives it somehow more dimension. And I find that so cool that it looks so wet. Yeah. So then on the next page we still have some neutral colors, and I made this little flip thingy here with the help of the new photo frames. These are really, really cool, and so they look so real. I'm really in love. So what you get is this front piece of such a frame. Of course, there are more than one in a package. That's obvious, Louisa. But you get such a front piece, which you then can decorate how you like it. And then you get also the back of this photo frame, so that you always have the matching thing for the back side. Of course, you don't have to use it like I used it here. You could even use another piece of paper, or you could glue this directly to the page. Then you won't need this backside. But what I like is, if you want to make something like a flip out, like I did here, then you have the matching thing for the back. And in this case, this nearly looks like you could take it out and have a piece of ephemera by itself, and it's not so this kind of, oh, this is a page thing, but it looks like it's somehow separated, even if it's attached with these hinges here. Does that make sense? Hopefully. By the way, there have been a ton of questions about what to use for a hinge if you want to attach, for example, a flip out to your journal. I came to the following conclusion after trying tons of things. I would be really interested what your solution is for making something like this, because I struggled with several problems for such a long time. I just want to take the chance to share my conclusion with you, what I use for making something like this. And with the new ideology release, we also got a third option that is good when you ask me. So what was the problem? You have a journal and you want to add a flip out or something else that needs a hinge. When you close the journal, of course, this should be as flat as possible and not so bulky. This journal has a ton of decoration. It is already pretty bulky, but it's not like extremely bulky, and it's not an alligator mouth. Yeah, so it is still okay. But what do we want to have? We want to have something that is flat enough to give us the possibility of flipping this, and this shall be flat. In the past, I have used fabric very often, and this, by the way, is fabric as well, but it is the Tim Holtz fabric strips. How are they called? I don't know the exact name, but this is available like it is already with the sewing from Ideology. And this is pretty flat, and it is flexible, and you can use it really good for such a hinge. When I used fabrics from my stash, I always had the problem that the quality of the fabric is different with every single piece I used, because I used what I had on hand, yeah? And sometimes it happened that the fabric was simply too thick, so that I couldn't move this so well anymore. And with gluing this became like totally stiff, and that was a problem, especially when I want to have this laying flat on the other page. I had problems with too thick material for the hinge. So I really like to use these strips here, or the linen tape, which is like nearly the same thickness. The Ideology linen tape is really, really, really sticky, you know. It holds really well, even on embossed surfaces or on plastic and everything like that. And it is so flexible and sturdy at the same time that it is the second option I like to use for making those hinges. So the first thing is this fabric, this Ideology fabric, no other fabric, the linen tape. And the third option now is to use this new tape. I have done that in the journal as well to test that. Here on the very end, you can see these strips here. They are a hinge for this pocket. And first I thought, I mean, this is a plastic tape, yeah? And obviously plastic tape is plastic. It's not fabric. It's in my head, plastic tape is not so sturdy like fabric would be. Do you know what I mean? But it's thin. And I thought, why don't I try this and test if this is an option for making a hinge as well. After having this for a few weeks here now, and flipping this and testing this, and also testing the hinge thing on other projects, I came to the conclusion that this is my third option now for making a really sturdy and flexible and flat hinge. Because this is so sturdy, it sticks so well. I talked about the tape here already. Yeah, it sticks immediately, and it sticks so well that it's just amazing. So you would have no problems that it would come off. And the other thing is, with like normal tape, like this clear tape that you use to tape paper that you have in your office, do you know what I mean? I often have the problem, I had the problem in the past that I didn't want to use that to make hinges, because imagine you have this and you accidentally tear it in this direction, like so. Then it happened to me that the normal clear tape has torn here and my hinge was destroyed. That can't happen. Yeah, I will not tear extremely, but I mean, otherwise I would tear my page. But the tape will not tear. That will not happen. Yeah, so I tested it. I say that because I'm sure that it works. Yeah, I don't say that because I made this for Tim. I say that because I like the quality of this and I tested it. I would not say it if I would not have tested it, because then it would be a lie. And on the other hand, it wouldn't help for my own projects. I want to have something that I can learn for my own projects, of course, as well. And that's what I'm sharing here. So here I tried another thing with the tape. I wanted to see what happens if I take a strip of the tape and just glue that over a face. So I have taken this photo and just glued the tape over here. And I'm really surprised how extremely good you can still see the details of the face. This tape is a really intense color, but at the same time you can see so much through it that you can tape it, obviously, nearly over anything that you like. I really like this. I mean, this is just so easy. Here's some embossing in the background. Here's just a little paper and this little die cut, and you know, then ready to go. And I think this is one of my favorite pages of the whole journal. I really like this. This turned out just amazing. That sounds really arrogant, but I like it. And that is important. So here's the other half of this smaller page here. So this is just the second part of this front page here. Here I made a little pocket. And with the pocket, we also come into a more greenish direction again with the collage strips here in the background. The pockets just hold these little tags, which I just have taken out from the package and sanded them a little bit and inked the edges. Oh, that's not true. I'm sorry. These are from the package, you know, right from the package like they were. These are the tags from Ideology, and these I made from some leftovers from such a piece like here, from the photo background things. And I have just cut them into the size I needed them to be for this pocket. So this can then go back in here. And you can use this as journaling space, of course, or making collages or whatever. Yes, here's pink. What do you think about this page? This page brought me headaches. I can't express that. That was just so crazy, because I wanted to come from the neutral color palette here over this green back to pink. And I started by making this background here with the collage strips, obviously. And then I thought I wanted to repeat the idea with this triangle. So I cut the triangle off from here, like on the other page, but instead of gluing it to this page and making another tuck spot, I've taken it and glued it here to the opposite page to create the tuck spot here. And then it can hold this little neutral thing here. I mean, neutral color-wise. It's a little pink on the back. So I thought, can I add a little pop of color in pink, but more extreme pink than this is, to this page? And then it happened. I have taken embossing glaze, the color Picked Raspberry, and I have thrown some water to this page where I already had the collage paper and some Scotch Timber ink. On those spots where the water and then the embossing glaze, because I used the water to attach the ink, I used the water to attach the embossing glaze, so you can emboss with water as well, yeah, and use that instead of embossing ink. And there where the glaze landed on the Scotch Timber areas, it got really dark, and it's, you know, a mixture of Scotch Timber and Picked Raspberry because the glaze is translucent. Here you can see it probably a little bit better. And in the first moments, I saw this and I thought that is just perfect and it's the right amount of pink. But then my eye went over the page and I saw this. And I also saw this here, this extreme pink, which of course also was on the rest of the page before this collage strip and the butterfly was here. So imagine here was this like splatters of pink and I was like, what the heck is that? It's way too much pink. And no, not too much pink, but too intense pink somehow. So I tried to solve this color problem by gluing the collage strip and this neutral butterfly here. And every time I look to this page, I'm not sure if I like it or if I don't like it. It can happen. There's a day I open this journal and I look at this and I think, oh my goodness, that is just a fail. I don't like it. And the next day I look at it and I think, oh, that is something interesting. It's nice that here's something unexpected and something where it's not so matchy like here. Yeah. What do you think about this? Is that normal? I mean, first of all, do you like this? And second of all, is that normal that you look to a page and one day you like it and the other day you hate it? Is that normal? Does that happen to you as well? Would be really interested in your opinion about that and your experience about such things. So here I went back to more neutral colors. I've also used some leftovers of the collage strips to make little things like this banner here, for example. And I also included some fabric. This is, if you want to know it really, really clearly, this is a leftover from a failed little journal cover I had. There happened, oh, I'm sorry, there happened something which is now hidden behind this woman. But I thought, why don't I use this fluff here and this little bit of stamping that gives it a little grunge, and I can still use that piece even if I could not use it in the original context. I wanted to use it because here behind the woman, you know, don't ask. So then we have this little thing that looks like a pocket, but it is just a flip out. It looks like you could take this tag out, but you can't. It's sewn here, and I just wanted to have the illusion that I have this tag here in this pocket, but you know, it's sewn here, so it's just an optical illusion. This thing here came out with the last Halloween release by Ideology. It's one of these little broken windows. I've alcohol inked the material a little bit and cut the circle out, and then I've just sewn this on with my sewing machine. I tried to get my alcohol ink in a similar color like the tape is here, and like this, you know, it shall remind to this gold of the stencil chip here. And I've just added a little darker alcohol ink to the stencil chip itself to make it not too much of this color here. And now this little bird can look through this hole. I also in some areas have destroyed the collage strips a little bit and other paper materials to make this grungy look here. I have then stamped tiny portions of a stamp here over this. I've also tried to stamp over the tape here. Really, really cool. I really like that it goes from the paper over the tape and then back to the paper also here. That is really, really cool. Yeah, that is just, you know, it's just such a tiny thing, but it makes that you want to explore those tiny details, and that is, I think, the most interesting thing you could do in a junk journal, to have the person who flipped through it be the most possible amount of excited. I think that was no English, but I think you know what I mean. Here I did that with the stamping as well, and this is, you know, sometimes I want the people to think, how was that done? Yeah, so that they, not that I want to keep a secret, but that they have to think about how is it done to get their own creative juices flowing and think, oh, if that is possible, perhaps then this or that is possible with my own materials as well. Or I have the tape, I have a stamp, I could try that out and see if I like it, because that is how we inspire each other, and that is how growing with your skills is working somehow. Here we have another little pocket, which now here at the moment holds this little tag, but you could fill it with other things as well. We have another bigger tag in here. You could put some journaling papers in here, some letters or whatever. And here I made a little envelope, which already was an envelope, but printed on a backdrop. Perhaps you know the backdrop where the envelope is on. Yeah, perhaps you have that in your stash. Then you can immediately see that it is the backdrop with the envelope. But what I did was I have crumbled the paper a little bit. I went over the hills of the crumbling with some ink to get these really dark, like nearly burnt areas. I stamped a little bit, put the tape and this little guy here. And then I cut there where the image of the envelope was. So I cut exactly along the line which was printed on the backdrop to make a real envelope out of the printed envelope. I altered the backdrop a lot, so perhaps you can't even see that it was the backdrop with the envelope, but for me this was really easy to do, and that is why I did it, because I could take the whole piece of the backdrop, put it on here, find the right size, cut in here, and then I had the proportion and the right proportion for my envelope without the need of measuring everything by myself. Here, this made me really, really happy when Tim recognized in the Ideology Live how this was made. When I sent the journal to him, I was a little excited because I thought, I would be so happy if he would see how I made this, because this is a faux wax seal. It's made with hot glue. I guess you could take, no, I won't take wax because I'm assuming that wax would break if you do what I did here. So perhaps you want to try hot glue. So that works, obviously. I mean, if I can manage it, you can manage it as well. What you also could take, and that is an idea my friend Marlies by Marley Design, she brought this idea to my mind. Take some, I haven't tried it out. Yeah, I have to say I haven't tried it out. She suggested it. I think she hasn't tried it out as well, but I think that must work as well. To take some clay, which is this kind of air drying clay, yeah, which you can shape and then let it air dry and then it becomes hard. That could be an alternative to hot glue. So I have taken a portion of hot glue, put that here to my mat. You can get it off here really easily. Don't try to put it to your glass mat because that could be a problem then to get it off. Here you can get it off really easily. If you don't have this mat, take some baking paper. And when the hot glue was still very hot, I have taken one of the little metal flowers. You can see this is from the release as well. And I have pressed that upside down into the hot glue. Let that dry and especially cool down. And then I've removed the flower and I had then this negative thing of the flower. And I'm really impressed by the details you can still see. Because, you know, it's the negative and you can still see all of the details of this amazing flower. And the good thing is, if you buy one package of these things, you know, then you can use this. You have the flower here and you can use the metal piece, of course, because when you take it out, you can just use it for something else. And then you have two things from one. You could even make more of these wax seals and use them in other projects. I love this. By the way, when I had the piece taken out, the flower, I have painted this with some distress paint and then I've added some gilding wax to get this shine to the seal, wax seal thing. Then we have the little pocket here with the envelope. I've just added this little tag here because I wanted to have the focus on this pattern here, and I have just added some stenciling over the backdrop paper here. This is also, of course, you know, meant to decorate further. Yeah, so if you have the little tag, imagine, for example, a paper doll standing on here, and you have this then as a background for a little collage here. You could even put something on the tag which is peeking out here, so that then this thing is a whole complete arrangement. Many possibilities. You could even store, of course, some papers, letters, or whatever in here. So then this is the last page. I've already shown you this little pocket with this hinge. In the pocket here, there's this little tag. This is just a piece of backdrop, and this is one of these things here, one of these. I've just turned that into a tag just by cutting it into the right size so that it fits in the pocket, and just cut the corners, sewn around it, just a little bit of sanding and a little ink so that it gets a little dirty. This looks nearly a little bit like mold, doesn't it? But it's just some oxide ink. Don't be confused. Just realize that this looks really like real. I even have some fingerprints on here. So can you see this is my finger? And there's my finger as well. It's not so extremely visible, but if you know it, then you can perhaps see it. Oh, that brings an idea to my mind. Oh my goodness, I need a piece of paper and a pen. Holy moly, I have to talk faster, otherwise I will forget that before the video is finished. Oh my goodness. Do you know those moments? Oh, I don't want to talk about it. You will see it in one of my next videos, I'm sure. So yeah, here he can't decide between these darlings here. I have taken this "Hello, my darling" because it was like, to me, he looked like I have to decide for a girlfriend, but I don't know who I shall take as my girlfriend. There are too many options. I'm confused, but I want to have a girl where I can say "Hello, my darling." I want to have a darling. And he was like talking to me the whole time while he was laying on my table before I glued him down. He was like talking and whispering different things to me. And then I decided to put the sticker to bring his thoughts to the page here. Okay, so that's it for today. Oh, I want to put this in here. So please check out the info box of this video. I have some useful information there for you. There's the link to the replay of the Ideology Live, where you can see this in a, you know, quicker time. No, that is not English, Louise. You can see in the live how Tim shows my journal, and of course all of the other things that have been made, all of the other projects the other makers have created. And I can only recommend to check that out, because it's always such a ton of inspiration. And especially the Ideology Lives are videos I watch not only, I don't watch only one time, but several times. Take something where you can make notes or so that you can remember the things you've seen there, and please watch that. If you liked this, then the other video is definitely also for you. There you can get a ton of other inspiration, and yeah, watch that. The link is down below in the description box, and there are also some other helpful links. Also the playlist with all of my other Tim Holtz makes. If you are interested in seeing that, and perhaps you are new here and you want to see that, then you can find it in the description box as well. And I'm hoping we will see the next time. In my next video, I will go on with my construction site / move journal. So if you have followed me on that adventure, we will take another step into the right direction with the next video. So stay tuned for that, and have a very great and creative day. Bye bye.